What if Adam wasn't the first human, and Earth had a forgotten history long before the Garden of Eden? Ancient texts, hidden scriptures, and mysterious biblical clues suggest that God may have created and destroyed entire worlds before Adam ever walked the earth. Could there have been civilizations, creatures, or even beings lost to time, erased by divine judgment? In this video, we dive deep into the hidden truths of pre-Adamic history and ask the question, did God destroy ancient worlds? Get ready to uncover secrets buried beneath scripture, myth, and time itself. What you're about to hear may change everything you believe. Before Adam, the lost worlds God erased from history. For centuries, humanity has turned to the book of Genesis for answers about our origins. Traditionally, Adam and Eve are seen as the first humans, the beginning of creation as we know it. But what if that wasn't the beginning at all? What if before Adam, there were other worlds, lost civilizations, divine creations, and even intelligent beings that were erased from history by the will of God? This concept, often called the pre-Adamic theory, suggests that Adam was not the first being to walk the earth, but rather the beginning of a new era after a divine reset. Ancient texts, both canonical and extra-biblical, seem to hint at the existence of these earlier worlds, creations that were destroyed long before Eden bloomed. Could God have created and judged civilizations before Adam? Let's explore the mysteries surrounding these lost worlds and what they could mean for our understanding of biblical history. 1. Genesis and the gap theory, a clue in the beginning. The foundation of this theory lies within the very first verses of Genesis. Genesis 1 verses 1 to 2, KJV. In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Many scholars point to a subtle but potentially powerful idea between Genesis 1 verse 1 and 1:2. Known as the gap theory, this view holds that a vast period of time, perhaps even an entire world, existed between these two verses. According to this theory, God created the earth v.1, but by verse 2, the earth had become formless and void, suggesting a state of destruction or judgment. The Hebrew word translated as was in the earth was without form can also mean became. This implies the earth became formless and void, perhaps due to a catastrophic event, possibly divine in nature. Could this gap represent the destruction of a previous creation? Was there a world that existed before Adam's time, judged and wiped clean by God? 2. Clues from the book of Job, witnesses of a former world. The book of Job offers cryptic hints about the origins of creation and possibly earlier beings. Job 38 verses 4 to 7, KJV. Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy. Here, God questions Job, recalling a time when the sons of God shouted for joy at the creation of the earth. But who were these sons of God, if Adam hadn't been created yet? Some interpret sons of God as angelic beings, but others propose they could have been divine watchers, inhabitants of a pre-Adamic era. Their existence prior to the known Genesis creation suggests a spiritual or even physical realm that predates Adam. 3. Lucifer and the fall, evidence of a pre-Adamic judgment. The fall of Lucifer, later known as Satan, provides another intriguing piece of this puzzle. Isaiah 14 verse 12. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? Ezekiel 28 verses 13 to 15. Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. Thou wast perfect in thy ways from the day that thou wast created, till iniquity was found in thee. These verses describe Lucifer in glory before his fall, before Eden even. Some theologians believed Lucifer ruled over a pre-Adamic earth, possibly as a steward of an earlier creation. His rebellion against God may have triggered a massive judgment, leading to the earth becoming without form and void. This divine wrath, they argue, obliterated that ancient world, one never detailed in Genesis, but subtly referenced throughout Scripture. For Jeremiah's vision, a desolate earth. One of the most powerful scriptural hints comes from the book of Jeremiah. Jeremiah 4 verses 23 to 26, KJV. I beheld the earth, and lo, it was without form and void, and the heavens they had no light. I beheld, and lo, there was no man, and all the birds of the heavens were fled. The language mirrors Genesis 1 verse 2, yet Jeremiah speaks in past tense, as if recalling a previous destruction. No man, no birds, a darkened sky. It's a picture of a world laid waste. While some interpret this as a prophetic vision of future judgment, others suggest it's a glimpse into a forgotten past, possibly the remains of a world that existed before Adam. 5. Ancient texts and the pre-Adamic beings. Outside of the Bible, several ancient and esoteric texts hint at lost worlds and pre-human races. The Book of Enoch, a non-canonical but influential ancient Jewish text, speaks of the Watchers, angels who descended to earth and interacted with early beings, producing hybrid offspring known as Nephilim. While traditionally linked to the time of Noah, some theories suggest these Watchers originated from a prior creation. Gnostic texts refer to eons and cosmic cycles, spiritual worlds created and destroyed across divine epochs. Sumerian and Babylonian myths speak of gods crafting and destroying humanity multiple times due to rebellion or failure. Across cultures, the theme is the same. Earth is not just the scene of one creation, but many. 6. Fossils, civilizations, and forbidden archaeology. Science, too, offers tantalizing evidence. Fossils and artifacts suggest that advanced life existed on Earth long before the timeline proposed by the biblical Adam, traditionally placed around 6,000 to 10,000 years ago. Mysterious megalithic sites like Göbekli Tepe, older than any known human civilization, challenge conventional timelines. Reports of out-of-place artifacts, tools, structures, even what appear to be footprints, buried deep in geological layers, suggest that intelligent beings may have existed hundreds of thousands of years ago. While mainstream science explains these findings differently, those who believe in lost pre-Adamic worlds see these as remnants of civilizations God destroyed, worlds erased and buried, just as Genesis 1 verse 2 describes. 7. Why would God erase a world? If God did create and destroy entire civilizations before Adam, the question becomes, why? Scripture repeatedly emphasizes God's holiness and intolerance for corruption. The fall of Lucifer, the rebellion of divine beings, and the spread of chaos may have polluted earlier creations. Perhaps God, in His justice, erased what had become corrupted, preparing the earth for a new beginning, a clean slate with Adam. This isn't inconsistent with the broader biblical narrative. God destroys the earth in Noah's time with a flood, wipes out Sodom and Gomorrah, and speaks of future judgments. It fits a pattern: creation, fall, judgment, and renewal. 8. Implications for humanity and faith. If the pre-Adamic theory is true, what does it mean for us? Humility. We may not be the first, nor the pinnacle of God's creative work. Accountability. If God judged and erased entire worlds, our actions matter profoundly. Hope and warning. Just as God renewed the world through Adam, He can renew it again, but not without judgment first. The theory does not undermine Scripture, but deepens it. It shows that Genesis may not be the beginning of everything, but the beginning of our story. 9. The forgotten pages of time. The Bible is a layered, living text. Beneath its surface lie riddles, echoes, and shadows of events long lost. The pre-Adamic theory invites us to ask bold questions. What came before us? Why was it destroyed? Could history repeat itself? Perhaps Earth has hosted many creations. Perhaps Adam was chosen not to begin the story of life on Earth, but to continue it after a divine reset. And perhaps, just perhaps, buried beneath our feet and hidden in ancient words are the ghosts of forgotten worlds, erased not by time, but by the hand of God Himself. Sources and references: the Holy Bible KJV, Genesis, Job, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel. The Book of Enoch, translated by R.H. Charles. Earth's Earliest Ages, by G.H. Pember. Archaeological Anomalies, Reports, and Forbidden Archaeology Studies. Ancient Mesopotamian Texts and Mythologies. Life Before Adam, What God May Have Destroyed. For many, the story of humanity begins in the Garden of Eden with the creation of Adam and Eve. According to the book of Genesis, Adam was the first man formed from the dust of the ground, and from him came all of mankind. But what if the biblical story of Adam is not the beginning of life on earth? What if Adam was not the first creation, but the first of a new creation, born after a world that God had already destroyed? This possibility leads us into the mysterious and controversial realm of pre-Adamic theory. The belief that intelligent life, civilizations, or spiritual beings existed on earth before Adam, and were wiped out by a divine act of judgment. Though not commonly discussed in mainstream religious circles, clues scattered throughout the Bible, ancient texts, and even science point to a deeper, older, and more complex human story. One that may have begun long before Adam ever took his first breath. 1 Genesis and the Gap, a silent catastrophe. Let's begin where all questions of origin start. Genesis 1 verses 1 to 2. In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Genesis 1 verses 1 to 2, KJV. At first glance, this seems like a straightforward beginning. But many scholars and theologians have noticed something curious. The Bible states that God created the earth, v.1, but by the very next verse, v.2, the earth is suddenly described as without form and void. The Hebrew phrase used here, tohu v'bohu, implies a state of chaos and ruin. Why would a perfect God create a world that is formless, void, and shrouded in darkness? This has led to the gap theory, which proposes a gap of time, possibly millions of years, between Genesis 1 verse 1 and 1:2. During this period, an entire creation may have existed, only to be destroyed and left in ruins. Genesis 1 verse 3 and onward then would describe not the first creation, but the recreation of earth for Adam and his descendants. 2. Clues from the book of Jeremiah, echoes of judgment. One of the most overlooked but compelling pieces of evidence for a pre-Adamic world comes from the prophet Jeremiah. I beheld the earth, and lo, it was without form and void, and the heavens, and they had no light. I beheld the mountains, and lo, they trembled. I beheld, and lo, there was no man, and all the birds of the heavens were fled. Jeremiah 4 verses 23 to 25. The language here echoes Genesis 1 verse 2, describing a desolate, darkened earth. However, Jeremiah's vision is not about the future, nor is it describing the earth before Adam was created. He sees a world that once had mountains, birds, and possibly life, now reduced to devastation and emptiness. This has led many to believe Jeremiah is seeing the aftermath of a prior creation, one that had been wiped away by divine wrath long before Adam entered the picture. 3. The fall of Lucifer, a cosmic rebellion. Another vital thread in this mystery lies in the fall of Lucifer, also known as Satan. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. Isaiah 14 verses 12 to 14. Lucifer's fall, according to many interpretations, occurred before Adam's creation. He was cast down to earth for rebelling against God. But what kind of earth did he fall to? In Ezekiel 28, Lucifer is described as being in Eden, the garden of God, and perfect in thy ways from the day that thou wast created, till iniquity was found in thee. Some believe this Eden was not the same as the garden Adam lived in, but a pre-Adamic Eden of a different time. The suggestion here is that Lucifer ruled over an earlier creation, perhaps even a world filled with beings or civilizations, and that his rebellion led to the world's destruction. This would explain why Genesis 1 verse 2 shows an earth in ruin, covered in darkness, for the sons of God and the watchers. In Job 38 verses 4 to 7, God questions Job about the time of earth's foundation. Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy. Who are these sons of God? They are often interpreted as angels or divine beings. The fact that they witnessed the creation of earth implies they existed before Adam. Some traditions describe them as watchers, angelic beings assigned to observe and sometimes interact with creation. According to the book of Enoch, some of these watchers descended to earth and corrupted it by mating with human women, producing giants known as Nephilim. Though this is often linked to the days of Noah, some esoteric traditions believe similar interactions may have occurred before Adam, contributing to the corruption and destruction of earlier worlds. 5. Destruction as a pattern of renewal. Throughout the Bible, we see a recurring pattern: creation, corruption, judgment, renewal. This cycle is evident in the story of Noah's flood, where humanity had become so corrupt that God wiped them out, sparing only a remnant to start anew. Could this same pattern have occurred before Adam? The pre-Adamic theory fits within this divine rhythm. If earlier beings or civilizations had fallen into rebellion, whether through pride, idolatry, or union with fallen angels, God may have judged them with total destruction, setting the stage for a new creation. Adam, then, becomes not the first human ever, but the first of a new era of humanity. 6. Scientific curiosities and forbidden archaeology. While mainstream science does not support divine destruction, some unusual findings have sparked curiosity. So-called out-of-place artifacts, OOP arts, have been discovered, tools, footprints, and structures that appear in geological layers far older than human history allows. Examples include advanced tools found in coal seem supposedly millions of years old. Human-like footprints discovered alongside dinosaur tracks. Ancient megalithic sites, such as Göbekli Tepe, whose age and complexity predate known civilizations. While heavily debated and often dismissed by mainstream scholars, these anomalies are viewed by some as possible remnants of lost pre-Adamic civilizations. 7. Other cultural myths of destroyed worlds. Across the globe, ancient cultures speak of worlds that existed before the current one. In Hindu cosmology, there are cycles of creation and destruction called yugas, spanning millions of years. Mesoamerican myths, like those of the Aztecs, speak of 5 suns, 5 worlds or ages, each destroyed and replaced. Plato's Atlantis story describes an advanced civilization wiped away in a single day by divine wrath. These myths may preserve cultural memories of a global reset, worlds that once were, now lost to time. Could they reflect echoes of a truth that Genesis only hints at? 8. Theological implications. If God destroyed life before Adam, several profound implications emerge. Human history is older and more complex than we know. Adam may represent the start of our covenantal relationship with God, not the beginning of life on earth. God's justice is consistent. If He destroyed worlds before for rebellion or corruption, it is a warning for us not to repeat their mistakes. Free will exists beyond humanity. Lucifer's rebellion, the Watcher's actions, and other angelic choices reveal a spiritual drama that predates our own. God is a creator of second chances. Despite previous destructions, He begins again, not abandoning His creative intent. 9. Why this matters today. Understanding the possibility of pre-Adamic life challenges us to rethink theology, humility, and our place in the cosmos. If God has judged entire civilizations before, we must ask ourselves, are we walking down the same path? This theory doesn't undermine the Bible. Instead, it adds layers to it, revealing a God who works through epochs, cycles, and timeless justice, yet remains intimately involved in human history. 10. Shadows before Eden. The story of Adam is sacred, but it may not be the first story. Before Eden bloomed, before the serpent slithered, there may have been other worlds, other beings, and even other failures. These ancient ages, now erased, may live on in scattered scriptures, ancient myths, and fossilized mysteries buried beneath our feet. Life before Adam, what God may have destroyed, invites us to open our eyes to the broader canvas of divine creation. While we may never know the full truth of those ancient ages, the Bible hints that God's hand has shaped, judged, and renewed the earth far more than we imagine. The question is not just what God may have destroyed, but why, and what lessons remain for those living in His latest creation. What if the story of Adam is just one chapter in a much older, forgotten saga? As we've explored, ancient texts and hidden clues suggest that Earth may have hosted entire worlds before Adam, worlds judged and destroyed by God. The question now is, why were they wiped away? And what does it mean for us today? If this video opened your eyes, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Will you believe existed before Adam? More mysteries await. So stay tuned as we continue to uncover the lost truths hidden deep within history, scripture, and legend.